here was caused when I took the turn too sharp going into the garage, and I took a little bit of the paint from the house with me and gone. F you. Welcome to Yogi's Garage. If this is your first time visiting, welcome. You're in for a treat. For my loyal subscribers, we're back with Project Wagon. I'm gonna call it Project Shaggin' Wagon until somebody out there can give us a really good name. If you think of a good name for this wagon, and if you've seen the first video, you can get a kind of a feel for what it looks like, and maybe a name will pop in your head and you feel inspired and you wanna give me that name, be sure to leave a comment in this video and let me know. And we're gonna draw from all the names given, and then we're gonna come up with a name in our next video. And if you are the lucky person, we'll be sure to give you a shout out. So where are we with Project Shaggin' Wagon? Well, in my last video, I did a quick review of it. It wasn't really that quick. It was about 27 minutes long. I'm still learning how to review cars. I apologize if it was lame. Anyway, now it's time to do an inspection on this car. So I'm gonna get this car up on my quick jacks, crawl underneath, and do a comprehensive or semi-comprehensive inspection on this vehicle. I'm gonna be looking at suspension parts. I'm gonna see where all those leaks are coming from. And then I just wanna get an overall feel for the condition of this 205, almost 206,000 mile 1995 Mercedes E320 Wagon. So with that, I'm gonna get under the car, but first I gotta jack this car up. It's very, very heavy. I hope my quick jacks can lift it. I think it can. It says it can lift 5,000 pounds. This girl here is about 3,700 pounds. So, and then after that, we're gonna look over the electrical problems, because as I mentioned in the first video, it has a really bad misfire coming from 5 as well as a semi-misfire from 6. So I'm gonna scope the cylinders as well and figure out what's going on. And then I could really use your help on giving me your professional diagnosis for all you Mercedes-Benz enthusiasts or mechanics out there that find my videos entertaining. I'd love to get your opinion on what the final results are at the end of this video. So with that said, it's time to get dirty, and let's look at what a 28-year-old car looks like. All right, I got Project Shaggin' Wagon in the garage, ready for his first inspection. But look how long this vehicle is. I need this space here because when I put the quick jacks under this car and lift it, it'll push it back. But we have very little. Man, shut up. It shut up. Thank you. Very little space to get between the car and and the house. So I guess I'm stuck here. Such a pain in the butt, these things. Up, up, up and away. I see how high I can get this car. This thing is heavy. Listen to that thing. There we go. It should go down. Okay, you're in. All right, I got my landing lights in. I'm going in. I'm gonna go in and take a look at Project Shaggin' Wagon for the first time. Let's see what it looks like underneath. Even at this height, it's still awfully close to me. All right, so I'm gonna turn on some light here, additional light, there you go. And just look over some things. A little bit of rust on the radiator. Looks like it's got a new belt. So that's good. Lots of seepage coming from the oil pan. At least that's what it looks like. Just seepage from everywhere. You can see further up there that there is some seepage that may be coming from the cylinder head. Because there's no seepage here along this part of the oil pan. And it looks like this oil pan is also underneath the subframe. So that's going to be fun. Let's see. Let's keep looking. See what else we see. Bushings look good. All right. Oh boy. Lots of seepage here. That looks like power steering fluid. It's red in color. And it's all over the steering linkage, which you can see is trash. So I got to make a list of things to do. And look, I got my hand all dirty. Should have worn gloves. Yeah, that's the power steering. Yeah, that's the power steering mechanism right there. So I have power steering linkage, inner tie rod. It's like it's one single tie rod. And then here's the other side of the linkage. And this is clean. Yeah, nice and tight on this side. No rear main seal leak. That's good. Very unusual. There is some seepage right here. And yeah, if you look up there, you can see that where the cylinder head, which is the shiny silver looking thing connected to the dark thing, that's the engine block. There's lots of seepage from there and a little bit of seepage above the cylinder head. So it may be a timing cover or something. I'm not entirely sure. This tie rod's gonna need to be replaced too. Completely collapsed here. I think overall this car could use a suspension refresh. The previous owner, Andrew, told me that the front suspension, the shocks were done, but I don't think the control arms were done. Yeah, see, that's pretty squishy. Oof, those are huge. It's gonna keep going down the belly of the beast here. Drive shaft is old, look at that. Yeah, I'm gonna need new CV joints, CV boots maybe, or an entire new shaft. Some kind of, that's what those are, fuel filters. I have some replacements for that. But no rust. I mean, I'm really surprised that there's little to no rust in this car. Exhaust looks good. Yep, and that's a pretty good leak on the exhaust side. You know, it's not that bad, except for here. Some nice red and blue zip ties here to hold all the hoses together. Another one here as well. It looks like they didn't splurge on brackets, and I can't say I blame them. That could make a lot of rattling noise when you're driving. Okay, and some more seepage right here. That's definitely motor oil. Yeah, so as you saw, other than normal leaking for almost a 30-year-old vehicle, it's not that bad. So power steering's definitely an issue. I'm gonna find the leak and see if I can repair it or rebuild the power steering pump if that's the case. So the suspension needs to be looked at. I'm gonna see what the costs involved to get the suspension repaired. But I think overall, the car is in pretty good shape. So I'm gonna take a look at the engine bay now and take a look at, see if I can find that leak coming from the cylinder head. Okay, so I've already taken the cover off of the engine here to take a look at the coils. But in looking at the wiring and trying to figure out why there's a misfire happening, I stumbled across this right here. This connector is in bad shape. Hand me my camera, would you? Thank you. See the insects?
I do.
Yeah, so this connector right here is an initial smoking gun as to why we may have a misfire happening on this. And I'm gonna assume that comes off with a twist. I'm gonna figure out how to do that, and then I'm gonna pull the plugs and scope the cylinders and see if there's any damage or perhaps oil in the pistons as well. And I also want to make sure that none of the pistons are hydrolocked. All right, so I'm looking at cylinder 1 here, and I'm just really impressed overall on the condition of it. You can still see the cross-hatching in the cylinder itself, which is impressive for such an old car. Now, I don't know if the engine's ever been rebuilt, but the whole combustion chamber itself is in really good shape. And I'm gonna flip the camera, and there. That's the top of the piston. And I mean, like, no carbon buildup. So we have we have a couple of things going on. For sure, cylinder number 5 is not firing, and I believe it's because of this wiring harness. Although this one does not connect specifically to that one, they're all connected in one way or another. So there's a short going on somewhere. Number 5 is the one for sure not firing, because when I looked at it and you saw in the footage, it's very wet in there, and then I smelled the spark plug and it smells like fuel. Number 6, though, is kind of a mystery one. That's why I think there's a problem with that wire, that connector here too, because it was partially wet. The other ones were just, dry, and then the last 2 were wet. And not only that, you can see that oil is getting into the intake system right here. So that's going to be a challenge. We'll see if I want to work on that. This right here looks like your cam position sensor, completely shot. The adapter, the whole thing is rotten. This is, again, the biodegradable wiring harness. That could be why. That may be the cam position. I don't know what that is, but one of these two is the cam position sensor. But either way, that frayed wire there will definitely not help your cause in trying to figure out what's going on with your car. It's been a couple of days. I went and got the replacement wiring harness, looking it over. They're both kind of in the same condition, and actually some of the connectors to the coils are actually missing the back. There's 2 of them missing here, and there's one missing on the original one that's in the car. However, this connector here is new in here. Got a few other little sensors here that I'm not entirely sure about. These look like some kind of magnet, but I have to trace these and figure out where they go. Yeah, so like I said, I'm going to go ahead and replace the wiring harness, and if that resolves the issue, I'm going to start a new tradition here in Yogi's Garage where I'm going to reward the car with something extra or something nice in order to make the car even nicer when I drive it. So in this case, an example would be an oil change, a fluid change, belt change, something like that. And then each time the car responds with something positive, then I'll keep investing money into the car in order to make it sorted. So that's my plan. Let's hope it works. I'm going to start pulling the wiring harness now. Let's do it. And as usual, the very first thing you want to do is pull the power. But in this case, we're going to do more than pull the power. We got to pull the battery, because the ECU unit, or what they call an ECU back in 1995, is right back here. So I have to pull this plastic panel off, but I can't do that until I get the battery out of the way. But before all of that, I got to put this hood into the 90-degree service position so that I could have full access to the back of the firewall here. And as you can see, the wiring is routed. I'll get this out of the way, because the wiring harness that I got has a shroud here, or a conduit, that I'm assuming goes back there. You can actually see some mount points, perhaps. And then looking at the back here, you can see the holes where they may go. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure of a couple of things. I'm not 100% certain that this wiring harness is a direct replacement. I've looked it over. It looks like it is. But since this one does not have this right here, it makes me a little skeptical. However, looking at some of the older YouTube videos on this car, it looks like there's a fiberglass piece missing altogether that goes here and attaches here, because everything that I've seen, the conduit is actually, or the wiring harness is actually routed through a bulkhead opening here. So that makes me think that this may be it. and that there's also a few pieces that maybe have deteriorated and have been taken off at some point. So, like I said, hood, battery, panel, cables. That's the plan. This hood has a service position button. You can see right there that you push it in, and then this hinge is able to clear this lock on both sides. And I'm going to be able to raise this hood higher so I can get to that battery. And there's the other one right there. All right, I got that one being held up by the stopper. You can see it's behind it. I'm going to come over here and do that on this side. And it should just go right up at this point. So let's see what I can do here. I was multitasking here. I was taking a call from my actual job while I was putting the hood in the service position. Man, I wish all cars put their hoods in that 90-degree angle. I mean, it makes it a lot easier when you're trying to pull an engine out. Now I just need to get the battery out. All right, good. Hey, I found the cover to the OBD1 port. That's great. Yeah, so here we go. This is the cover. So the trick is this. Here's what I want to do. I don't want to pull the wiring harness, the existing wiring harness out until I can absolutely confirm that this is the correct harness and verify that it will match. So the wiring harness should have a part number here, and you can see it is labeled, and that's great. I'm just gonna have to pull that number to confirm it. We've got several connectors here because there's two wiring harnesses in this car. One for the main system above and then a smaller wiring harness underneath. So I need to make sure I'm pulling the correct ones and just trace everything together and disconnect one from the old wiring harness and then connect the new wiring harness to that. So, but again, before you do anything, you want to get the part number, which is here. This is the part number for the new one. Well, showstopper right out of the gate. This wiring harness, and again, this is why you don't take anything apart until you can absolutely, positively verify that they're going to work. So this wiring harness, although it has a part number on here, I checked it and it shows that you can look on here and you can see that the part number is here, 140540692. Manufacture date is 1992. So this should fit these cars. However, it doesn't. And there's a couple of ways you can see that. This wire here is supposed to go to the mass airflow temperature sensor that's on the flyover intake pipe, and it plugs in to this, and you can see this is not the same connector, not even close. That's not the same. It's a 2-pin, not the same. So that was one indicator. The other indicator was this right here. The actual mass airflow sensor is right in this vicinity on that flyover tube, like I mentioned. And you can see that here's the one that's on the existing harness. It's a nice screw type connector. This one here does not have it at all in the vicinity of where it should be. So that is not the right wiring harness for this car. Yeah, so I don't know what I'm going to do. To buy a wiring harness for this car is just not economically feasible. They run about, a new one will run you about between $400 to over $1,000 depending on where you get it. If you try to get it from Mercedes, you're looking at the $1,000 range. eBay has a few that are around $400. FCP Euro has one. I'm not 100% sure if the fitment's right, but the one that I saw on their website was a $372 replacement. So here's what I'm going to try to do. There were a couple of spots that I pointed out earlier in this video where the coil connector broke apart. I think I could repair that better than what the previous owner did. I'll try to repair it. And then the other one on the front where the cam sensor is at, there's 2 cam sensors, and one of them is for the timing portion of it. Anyway, that wiring harness is completely frayed. It's gonna have to be replaced from at some point down the line. It's just a sensor, a 2-wire sensor. We'll see how it works out. I'm a little nervous on the spark plug one, but we'll see how to make it work because this car, again, is almost 30 years old. Wiring harnesses are fragile and they're almost not worth repairing. You might as well just replace the whole engine for that price. So let's see what I can do. Okay, so here's the one and only connector that's damaged on this existing wiring harness. Looking it over, it looks like I can push this pin back in and hope and pray that it works. And maybe some JB weld will help. So I gotta come up with a way of keeping the tension on the wire and pushed all the way in because that's the only way it's gonna work. Can't be metal. I can't use metal in this area, right? It has to be a non-conducting material. So let me think about this for a second. This is JB Weld plastic bonder that might give me the holding strength that I need to keep the cap pushing the contact pin in place. So let's see. So we're gonna put that like that. I can feel it sitting in place. Or one good strong rubber band. Looks like blue may be my lucky color today. Let's see if this holds. There. I'm gonna put another one on in the other direction. There. Yeah, good. So I don't want to see any flexing in the plastic. That'll hold it. It takes about 15 minutes to set up. I'm going to try to fix this as well. As you can see, the whole pin and everything is completely broken off here. This is the other end of the connector. Yeah, so let's see what I can do to fix that. All right, it's the next day. I've let the JB Weld cure overnight, even though I really didn't need to, but it was a Friday night and I had other things that I wanted to do. So let's take a look at what it looks like. Now I did order what I'm hoping is gonna work, which are bullet pin style banana clips, and I'll post a picture of it here on the screen. It's typically used in audio equipment. Banana clips is typically what they call those things. And the pins on the cam adjuster magnet are 4 millimeters in diameter. So I was able to find 4 millimeter pins, female, and I'm gonna get those in tomorrow and hopefully they will work. I'm thinking I may be able to start the car in its current condition. I can always jerry rig something for that connector until I can get the parts in. But let's, while I'm waiting, I'm gonna go ahead and put back the spark plugs and the electrical, and then I'm gonna give this engine bay just a quick little vacuuming because that's what it needs, and I'm Yogi and I clean stuff. So let's get going and I'll put you on time lapse. Check it out. Right away you can see that it just needs a good vacuuming. Pine needles, I don't have pine trees in my neighborhood, so this came from Andrew, the previous owner's area. And I'm just gonna hit this thing with a vacuum cleaner and get some of this dust off, but you know how it is with me in Yogi's garage. Once I make a clean spot, I end up cleaning the whole thing, but I hope I don't get into that. But here we go. Yep, I did it. I made a clean spot. Completely unnecessary, but I did it anyway. I may have a problem, I don't know. Look. Yeah, See, those are the spray hoses. I'm finding all kinds of little things that aren't quite up to snuff. Like this looks like it belongs to the windshield wiper system, which should plug into somewhere here, but it's not, so that tells me that something's not going on. Something right is not going on there. I'll have to look into that. Anyway, clean spot. I might be able to make a few other clean spots, but I'm not gonna reward this car too much until we resolve the electrical problem. This car gives me something, I'll give it something. I'm thinking after I do this, if this works out, I'll address the power steering pump, which is a tandem pump which controls power steering and the auto leveling system in the back of the car. So that definitely needs to be done. But if I cannot resolve the electrical problem on this car, then it may not be worth touching that over there. A repair kit will run me about $40, not a big deal. But nevertheless, this is the priority. If I can resolve the misfire and get this car purring like it should, then I'll move forward with the rest. But for now, clean's not gonna hurt anything, so I'll just keep doing that, I guess. Dang it, I did it again. I can't help myself. I blink and I'm on the workbench scrubbing something, cleaning it. Oh well, now the air box is clean. Now what? I think I'm gonna focus on the wiring, I swear, I'm gonna get to it. See, I told you I'd get to it. Here I am, although I see a lot of other things that I wanna clean. Like that needs to be clean. The valve cover cannot be spray painted like normal metal. This is magnesium, and anyone who's worked with magnesium, it's very, very difficult to paint. In fact, the only paint technique that really works for this type of metal is powder coating. So that's one of the ultimate rewards that I'll give this car. If it gives me what I want, which is a running engine, I'll consider powder coating it. And I observed that the spark plugs weren't very tight when I pulled them out, so that may contribute to a compression issue. I didn't do a compression test on this car. I don't think I need to do one just yet. I want to make sure it works. It's about 15 pounds to get these spark plugs torqued, so I'm going to get them all in there and then I'll torque them down. Okay, torque down. Okay, putting on the broken one. Fingers crossed. Nice snug fit. Very good, very good. Okay, now I'm gonna hook up the spark plugs and rig up something right here and we should be good. Okay, and here's the finished product. Still kind of dirty down there. It bugs me, but I'm gonna leave it be because I wanna start this car up, but we still gotta focus on one last issue. Here we go. Okay, so here's what I've done. I know this is not permanent, trust me, I know, but I'm using some roach clips here to connect to the sensor. I'm assuming the bottom is red and the top is black. I may have to flip them, but looking at how the wires were oriented in the harness, in the sheathing itself, it looks like this brown one went to the top connector. So anyway, so I got the brown one going to the top, the brown wire going to the top, and the two red-black wires going to the bottom. If that doesn't work, I'll flip them, but everything else is configured and set up. I just want to hook up the air box again and get everything connected partially so that I don't throw any errors. Not that there's going to be very many with an old car like this, but you never know. So here we go. Wish me luck. I'm not going to put the cover back on just yet. That's it. And here we go. It still sounds like it's misfiring. Sounds better. So I still think it's misfiring. I'm not entirely convinced that that resolved the issue. I'm hearing still a little bit of a clacking sound coming from that area, and the engine's still out of balance. Now, it could be a motor mount problem as far as that's concerned, but I can just tell you that it's inline sixes should be nice and smooth, and that looked like a lot of shaking to me. Okay, so I'm going to do a cylinder leak down test on all of the pistons, primarily focusing on number 5. This is a worst case scenario test. This is going to let me know if I'm getting any blow by or issues with compression. But in order to do a cylinder leak down test, you have to put each piston in the appropriate position, so top dead center. But not just top dead center on the compression stroke, not the exhaust stroke. That ensures that the valves are closed and that you can do a proper leak down test at that point. Well, like I mentioned in my previous video, this old style engine uses a fan that's attached to the poly V-belt system, so the fan is actually being powered by the crank. It's not attached directly to the crank like I originally thought. It's actually attached to a clutch wheel, and it's being powered by the poly V-belt. Well, luckily, I don't have to take the whole assembly off. There's 3 5mm Allen bolts on the fan here that I'm going to take off, and that'll give me access, clean access to the crank. Let me put some light down there. This down here, the lowest pulley anyway, the lowest pulley down there is the crank. And then I can crank it up. And I'm going to show you a trick on how to figure out whether you're on the compression stroke or on the exhaust stroke. So let me get this fan off first. All right, so I've managed to get my long ratchet in there. That's a 27mm bolt down there on the crank. I was unsuccessful on getting this fan off. All I did was round out one of the M8 bolts. I say they're M8s because they're 8mm wide, but they're 5mm hexes. Anyway, one of them stripped out. I'm not going to go any further with that. I think I can get it cranking without having to take the fan off anyway. In order to do a leak down test, you have to have the piston in top dead center, like I said earlier. However, it has to be on the combustion stroke, not the exhaust stroke. So in order to figure that out, I have a balloon here, and when the piston is going down, it's creating a vacuum, and when it's coming up, it's creating positive pressure, and it should inflate the balloon. So there it goes. So now we're on the compression stroke, and what I want to do at this point is stop and then get something long enough to stick into the cylinder and watch it go up to where you can fine-tune the adjustment and get it right at top dead center. So this is where I want to be on this piston. So I'm going to go ahead and unscrew this and then get a screwdriver. All right, so I've got my 1/4 inch extension in there, and it's touching the piston. So as I'm cranking, you can see it's still going up, and I want to catch it right before it goes down. That sounded metal. Oh, that's just my fan clutch. Okay, I think I'm right. Yep, you can see it moving. It's getting ready to go down. Okay, so that is top dead center on the compression stroke. All right, I'm doing a leak down test. I've got the leak down adjusted. I have this pulled out and closed, so I can adjust how much air I'm going to put in there before I put any air in there. Make sure that's an important step to make sure you got to do that. Okay, I got the air hooked up. Add the air hooked up. All right, now that's connected. All right, here we go. I'm going to start adding air to the cylinder. Here we go. And you can see that they're matching evenly, with no drop. Okay? You don't want to hear a whole bunch of hissing. Now you're going to hear some from like the spark plug hole, but you don't want to hear anything from anywhere else. And so far so good. I'm going to put it up to about 90. It sounds like the seal is breaking. So I'm going to go ahead and take it down. Alright, so far so good. Now that I'm on 5, I need to get this piston in top dead center on the compression stroke. Yeah. I can already see a problem. You see, the balloon's not inflating. Yeah. See? That's not good. No pressure. And I'm gonna get the piston in top dead center. Okay, it's going on the downstroke. Yeah, that should be right there. All right. All right, we're looking here. Flying air. Awful. Awful. Now we got to find the air, where it's coming from. A smoke test may actually help me here. We got to try to pinpoint. In fact, I'm just going to take you off here, and we'll crank this up. Comes the air. You can see I got a real bad leak. Ah, I think I hear it. I know I have a compression leak in that cylinder, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm in the right position because of the leak. So I'm gonna get back to top dead center. I'm gonna go all the way around and get that piston back up, and maybe the valves were open. Okay, we'll run it again and see what happens. All right, here we go. So I've got about 55 PSI going to it, and it's only holding about 10. So that's a significant drop. Now listen, there is air coming out of this. There is an O-ring on that thing, and it may be leaking a little bit. But there is air, I believe, coming out of these here next to it. Huh. Okay, I'm pretty certain that I hear air coming from here, but I also feel like there may be some air coming off the manifold over here on this side. I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to run another compression test on 6 and then go back to 4 and see. That's in, let's put some air in it. Yeah. Yeah, so number 6 was also another one that I thought was having trouble, and I was right. You can see I'm dropping a lot of pressure on number 6. So what does that mean? Well, that means this car has a blown head gasket. The air is coming through the other spark plug tubes, and that typically means that air is getting through the gasket between the cylinder head and the deck on the engine block. So I bought a car that needs a lot of work. A cylinder head on this thing, I mean, you can see the size of this cylinder head. It's ginormous. And the work involved to taking the exhaust manifold bolts off and the work involved to get the intake manifold off may not be worth it. So I'm gonna do some thinking. I gotta figure all this out, but I really appreciate you guys sticking around to see what's going on with this car. So this is where we're at. We have a blown head gasket. All signs are pointing to that. I have no compression in cylinders 5 and 6. I have some compression in 6, I should say, but 5 is definitely blown. I mean, air is getting by. It sounds like it's coming through the head gasket on the exhaust side. And then I kind of proved that when I put it into 6, and 6 also indicated a slow leak. So that means I have a blown head gasket. I like torture. I think that's what it is. So anyway, thanks again for watching. I'm gonna make a decision and we'll come back with either a Porsche video or we'll come back to Project Shaggin' Wagon here and figure it out. Oh, by the way, like I said in the intro of this video, please give me some ideas on what we should name this car. We're thinking the car has a male personality because of the colors, but if you can come up with some good female names that maybe will stick, but right now this car is called Shaggin' Wagon, and it could be called a pain in the ass too, so it is what it is. But anyway, thanks for watching. Today's my birthday. We'll see you later.
Yo, microphone check, make it a microphone check. Give it a microphone, I make the microphone dead. Don't step to me, newbie, I could truly be moody. I could have played the French in the movies. I've been a part.